And sometimes, like the next generation, you can't wait for someone to give you your turn. You have to take it. And so I felt like I had to take it, and that's what I was going to do. And
these quotes are going up,
That's fine. Look,
this is awesome.
If you want something, you have to take it.
What do you think is like I know you mentioned 3 things just now.
Yeah.
But if you had to say your proudest accomplishment right now. Great idea. Newborn and restaurant.
Yes, don't ever do that.
I was going to say, were you planning on running a marathon as well?
That was a really bad idea.
You have to make a signature dish. What is it? What are you making? I'll tell you what. Me and Scott are the judges.
Well, no, that I had like shrimp or I had lobster or I had this. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's like one of those things where like people.
Well, it's too late now, Josh. You just
put
it out.
I know, I did.
Recorded it.
I did.
And it's going to be headline news tomorrow.
It should, Josh.
Cornwall local.
Josh likes lobster. And I kind of felt like, you know what? Like the public is expecting us to do more here. Like we're not all just going to be like shut down, and we still have to run the government. We still have to plan for the future. There's a lot of work. I mean, I literally have like a 200, numbered list of stuff to get done. That if I focused on all this, external stuff, I would never be able to be checking stuff off my list.
I'm on sabbatical. That's my new term.
Yeah.
The new term.
Don't say that to anybody.
No,
don't say that to anybody.
I'm taking a personal sabbatical.
A personal sabbatical.
Personal sabbatical. It's better than being unemployed.
It was nice knowing you. It's been a good run as friends, but for now,
why? What's
we're
wrong
done.
with sabbatical?
I don't know. It just sounds weird.
Sounds weird?
Yeah, it sounds weird. I'm on sabbatical.
Yeah.
Nah,
I can't stand
personal
it.
sabbatical.
Welcome to Cornwall Conversations.
Oh, yeah, Josh, welcome. This doesn't go on the entire time, by the way.
Sure.
I mean, have you seen an episode or two?
I have.
Okay. We promise we're going to let you get in more words than us.
That's fine. It's just a good conversation.
Yeah, at some point we get the cue that we're going.
He kind of did.
Oh, he did?
He kind of did. He said, welcome to Cornwall Conversations.
He was just letting us go to see what we were going to say.
Right.
Yeah. It's always the warm-up before. It's like the pre-show.
Yeah.
Post-game show? Pre-game show.
Pre-game show.
Pre-game show. Yeah, okay.
So you were carbo loading on the way in here, I saw.
Wow.
Straight
away got me, I'm getting food shamed. Straight away. I'm going to eat my protein later, Scott. Don't worry about it. I'll get in my protein.
No. I'm intermittent fasting.
Okay. Yeah, while on sabbatical. Yeah, that's good. I swear, Josh, we're going to get to you here in a minute.
Josh.
Yes.
So welcome to Cornwall
Conversations.
Wow. You want to try that one more time?
You go.
No, you go.
Are we gonna do it together?
No. You go.
All right. Josh, welcome to Cornwall Conversations.
We are here with the Cornwall Town Supervisor.
Thank you for welcoming me to the. Yeah, no. I mean, you know what? I mean, I'm a little annoyed I wasn't the first person on the show, but I'll take, what is it, number 4, 5?
4.
Okay, you know what? That's fine.
You don't.
I think the guy next door who has basically spent the last 2.5 years dealing with a lot of BS to get something through deserved to be the first person on the show. So props to Keith.
Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if you could count me and Scott as we did something first. So technically, you're the third guest.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
Okay.
Technically, you're the third guest. I don't know what we did that individual thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right.
But we should let Josh kind of introduce himself.
Yes.
Josh is in his second term
Yes.
as the town supervisor. So maybe, Josh, tell us a little bit about how did you get into public service?
Sure. Okay. So actually, I have a different background than a lot of politicians. So actually, right out of high school here, I went to culinary school. Graduated the CIA in 2001. Moved to New York City. 9/11 happened, and like a lot of people after that, kind of had like a rethink. Like, hey, am I doing what I should be doing? Some people joined the military after 9/11. Some people. Some people went into public service. I ended up working for the city of New York to teach people on public assistance how to cook, and then helping them get a job so they could become self-sufficient and support their families. I made that change literally right after 9/11. I was like, what am I doing? Like working in restaurants, doing this. So I went and I took the culinary knowledge I had and started doing that in the public service arena. Still did high-end stuff on the side, but I went that direction. And then when I was doing that, I was like, you know what? I actually got to get another degree here. So I started going back to school to get a degree in history and political science.
Sounds like my path.
Which I got.
Let me get another degree.
Yeah, I kind of like,
sure.
look, when you're young, I mean, you really don't, I hate to say it.
Zero.
You don't really know what you want to be when you grow up, when you're that age, and you kind of like fumble through your 20s like a lot of us did. And it took me until I was in my 30s to really figure that out.
I'm still fumbling.
Yeah.
Or when you're
I'm
in
still-
your 50s,
Yeah.
taking
And on
sabbatical.
sabbatical.
Yeah.
And on sabbatical.
You know what? And so then, then when I was going back to school at Pace University, I got an internship for the New York City Council. And I ended up, turning an internship into a full-time job that lasted 4 years. Going from the city council to working for the YMCA of New York City as their director of public affairs, where I worked with elected officials in all 5 boroughs, city, state, federal. Really important job, really taught me how to get things done, how to do economic development, how to do community development, how to work with other people to get things done. And then I moved up here.
So you were always in the city first? Where were you kind of born?
So I was born here. I lived here through 2nd grade. My dad got his job transferred him to Long Island, so I was actually in Ronkonkoma for about 7 years.
Shout out to Ronkonkoma.
Yeah, yep.
I went to Sachem High School.
Yep,
Nobody knows this.
Yep, Connecticut School District.
There you go. Wow.
Ronkonkoma
Suffolk
Junior High
County.
School.
Suffolk County, yeah.
My dad then got transferred back up here. He was working for CVS, the drugstore. We got transferred back up here. I came back in 10th grade, and I graduated class of '99. And then I've been here, pretty much ever since.
That was a reminder of how much younger Josh is than us.
Yeah.
Thank you for the class of '99 plug.
Yeah. So
Shout
look,
out to class of '99.
So basically, what I would say is that the going back to school, working for the city council, and then I moved back here. And at some point, I had this bug. You know what? Maybe I left cooking too soon. Let's open a restaurant. It's like
Yeah.
famous
That's
last
how I
words.
feel.
Famous last words by a lot of people that ultimately, either do it or get back into it. And they're like, you know what? I might only want to do this once or twice a month, not full time for the rest of my life. So, Heather and I opened the restaurant.
Talk about the restaurant. What was
that's
the name
right.
of
That's
it?
where I met
Remind
you.
people.
Yeah, that's where I met you.
Remind
It was
people
on
what the
Main-
restaurant
on Main
was.
Street,
Yeah.
right?
Yep, it was on Main Street, and this was something we had always wanted to do. We wanted to have a Main Street business. We opened it up, shortly after my firstborn daughter. That was in, so my daughter was born in 2012. We opened in 2013.
Great idea. Newborn and restaurant.
Yes, don't ever do that.
I was going to say, were you planning on running a marathon as well?
That was a
or
really
any
bad
kind of
idea.
any kind of
and
other
It was I have
challenges?
to say, it was a real difficult sort of time. Plus, we had our second child in 2015. Again, don't do that in the first 5 years of starting a business.
Yeah.
Because as you know, you tend not to make a lot of money in your first years in business. And you often have to have other jobs to support while that business is growing. And look, we tried it out. I think it was a success from the standpoint of, we were able to make, at least, some income for my wife, who was there more than I was. Because I was still working, for the YMCA, really doing both jobs, working at the Y, coming home in the evenings, managing all the catering, doing all of that. And then we tried to make a go of it at one point where we just tried to solely live off the business. That's really hard. To derive, all of your income for a family off of a business that small. And so you'll see most business owners have spouses that are, teachers or bankers or whatever. They don't usually try to do it all off of that one business. It's very hard to do.
I actually quit
Yeah.
my job for 5 years while my kids were young.
Yeah.
Because I'm lying. That's a complete lie. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot though, right? It's a
Yeah,
lot.
it was a
Yeah.
lot. It was a lot. And, we ultimately decided that in order to be able to spend more time with our kids, and I had also started to get more involved politically, and I felt like I was going to go in that direction after the, roughly 5 years. And we basically sold the business to, Cialito Lindo. They took the assets, the equipment, all of that stuff.
Shameless plug.
Yeah.
Located where? Give it-
At 255 Main Street.
There we go. There we go.
Yep.
255
Main Street.
255 Main
First
Street.
Mexican
Cornwall.
restaurant in Cornwall. At one point we had 3. We're now down to 2.
Yep.
But we do, one in the town, one in the village. Who would have thought? I mean, 10 years ago, I would have never said we would have had 2 Mexican restaurants in Cornwall. We now have 2.
Yes, we do.
They're both liked. People love Mexican food, and I'm really happy that happened. I think they're a great family-owned business. They work there. They work very hard. They got through the pandemic.
Yeah.
Of
Josh,
course,
go back to your
Yeah.
CIA
Yeah.
training real quick.
Yeah.
So here's my question.
Yeah.
If you had to compete on a show, so let's just say Top Chef maybe or Ramsay.
Yeah.
Your Ramsey show.
Yeah.
You have to make a signature dish. Dish. What is it? What are you making? I'll tell you what. Me and Scott are the judges. I'm going to take more of a Ramsey approach, though, because if I have the opportunity to put 2 pieces of bread on somebody's head, and I won't say what he says, but anyway, go ahead. Your signature dish would be?
What would I make? Okay, so it would probably be some type of braised item, like maybe like braised boneless short ribs.
You won.
Red wine braised boneless short ribs.
Okay.
And actually,
right,
I
perfect.
did. So in high school, I went to Orange Ulster Bosse's in Goshen for culinary, plus doing the normal course of academic. But I competed in the statewide culinary championship. I came in second statewide.
And what did you make for that? Was that a braised something?
No, that was, if I recall, and this is going back now to 1999. Let me see. The appetizer was some type of a pasta dish. It was ravioli with a.
He said some type of pasta dish.
It was with.
Can't tell an Italian guy that. You got to be more specific.
It was.
Well, Scott's Italian.
Well,
too,
you know what? It was kind of like
know.
one of those I didn't think it was like we all had to make the same thing and then we all got judged. So it was ravioli with like a fresh tomato salsa. I didn't really like that whole thing, but
Okay.
That's what we had to make because you had
Yep.
to make the fresh pasta dough.
Right.
Then we had to make this corn cake, a sautéed pork loin medallions, and like some type
Okay.
of apple butter. And then
Came in
dessert, I believe, was a fried banana fritter. And I
I'm
came
in.
in second. I only lost by like a half a point,
Yeah.
And it was
To
to
get
this
that
ga-
half a point back. Just
So
You know
how
what?
often do you cook at the house?
You know what? It's more so on the weekends.
Okay.
I mean, I'm out a lot, during the week.
Yeah, I follow
so-
you guys on Facebook,
yeah.
so I do see every once in a while where your
fact-
wife will brag that you've cooked.
So actually, over Mother's Day weekend, I didn't do like a whole it's like sometimes I'm like, should I really post that I'm making all of this food
Yes.
for people, and it's like
Let me help.
it's like when when
Food
you're
related,
when you're a
yes.
politician, sometimes you're like, you know what? Do I really want to show that
That you eat?
Well,
Yes.
no, that I had like shrimp or I had lobster or I had this. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's like one of those things where like people.
Well, it's too late now, Josh. You just
People,
put it.
I
you
know,
just
I did.
recorded it.
I did. But
And it's
I'm
going
a
to be
chef.
headline news tomorrow.
It should, Josh.
Cornwall local.
Josh likes lobster.
Yeah, Josh
and he likes
eats
shrimp.
lobster. Yeah.
I mean,
How
they used to
dare
feed
you.
prisoners lobster back in back in the day.
Yeah, it used to be a
And now
Portland's
lobster is a luxury item. So it just goes
For
to
sure.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Josh, so fast forward now,
Yeah.
and you did a stint on the town council,
Yeah.
and then decided to run for town supervisor.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how that came about and what really drove that decision to say, hey, I want to step it up and run for town supervisor.
Sure. So, I mean, look, basically, when I first ran for town board, I knew I'd wanted to be involved just, from having the business and just, really seeing that, I wanted to be a part of something. I didn't feel like the current administration was really doing enough to kind of bring Cornwall into the future to help businesses. I didn't feel like there was a good relationship with the chamber and other entities, when I was running the business and, during that time. And then when I got on the board, it was basically, I came in and then the whole world shut down. I mean, I took office in January of 2020. Well, what happened 2 months or 3 months later?
Yep.
COVID. And then it was basically, all right, well, we're going to have these Zoom meetings and we're really just going to not do much. We're going to let the pandemic basically just basically shut everything down. We're not going to be innovative. We're not going to try to do stuff when the pandemic is happening. We're just going to kind of really use it as an excuse to just slow stuff down. And I kind of felt like, you know what? The public is expecting us to do more here. We're not all just going to be shut down, and we still have to run the government. We still have to plan for the future. It's I always knew that we were going to come out of this. I always had that optimism. A lot of people were scared, but you got to have people that are going to lead. And I think that people wanted to see elected officials out there, Governor Cuomo at the time. I mean, whatever you want to say about him. I mean, look, he's running for mayor now, but I think a lot of people give him credit for being out there and giving the public information every single day. And I felt like that wasn't happening. And I thought that a lot of leaders should be, doing that. And I just felt like that wasn't happening. So that was sort of one reason. I also felt like you were going to need to have someone from the next generation leading the town out of the pandemic, because it was going to be a whole new I mean, just think of how much stuff has changed.
Right.
I mean, no one even heard of Zoom or like live streaming or just any of these technologies that got used. No one, I mean, QR codes. I mean, we didn't even know what the hell a QR code was. And now we use it for everything.
And podcasting.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a freaking podcast.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Well,
Any
exactly,
podcast.
podcasting.
Yes,
So
that's true, actually.
I just felt like if you looked at who was on the town board at the time, and look, they were good people, let's be honest, right? I mean, you know, they were public servants. They'd served the town for many years. They were good people. But I just felt like it's kind of like what's going on right now with like the political parties in the country. You have entrenched leadership that have been there for decades. They just don't want to get out of the way. You know, they don't want to sort of like move into the future, let the next generation lead. And sometimes, like the next generation, you can't wait for someone to give you your turn. You have to take it. And so I felt like I had to take it, and that's what I was going to do. And
these quotes are going up, you know.
that's
I mean,
fine.
Gonna,
Look,
yeah, this is
you've
awesome.
got, if you
Yeah.
want something, you have to take it. And that's what I felt like
Or
I
ask,
had to.
right? Ask, take
Well,
it,
look,
whatever.
you know what?
However you look at it, right? I agree.
That's right. You have to ask. And look,
Yeah.
when I first got on the town board, you know, I was hoping to be mentored a little bit by the by the person that was currently there, and he chose who he was going to mentor and like work with. I think we know who that is, but you know, as far as like the next
The
generation,
password is,
Yeah.
I have no idea. But that's okay.
But-
That's okay. We don't want to mention names.
But as far as like the next generation, yeah, I felt like I had to take it, and you know, and like we were just gonna basically take it and just like move into the future, and I felt like that's what I've been trying to do ever since I was elected, and I started office in 2022, and it has now been I'm sure you've seen the countdown clock on my desk. Like I literally try to make every single day count, with at least getting one or two things done, make every day better than the past if I can. And, you know, right now I'm getting very close to having, you know, 200 days left in the current term.
And
So hold on, let me just.
Yeah.
I'll just have it. So how would you respond though to people who would say, "Whoa, Josh, you're moving too fast," and you
Yeah.
know this approach of balancing growth with preserving what people have come to love about this town, including myself, this
Sure.
old school charm and that type of thing. What would you say to those
That's
people?
a-
Like,
that's-
hey, you're moving too fast.
Scott,
I would
wait.
say that we've actually been doing that. And
Yeah.
so quite frankly, I want all of that stuff too. And, you know, to those people that would say that, I would say, look at what we've done. We have a tree preservation law. We passed enhanced stormwater regulations. We're working on a drinking water source, you know, protection plan. We're doing a comprehensive plan right now to actually make sure that we preserve the areas of the town that we want to preserve, and we develop the areas of the town that can be developed. We've done more, I think, in 4 years than some people did in 14 terms. So, you know, I just think that like there was a lot that had to be caught up. I mean, just all the infrastructure stuff, a lot of stuff. And, you know, sometimes these things happen. Like you go through a period where, like, you know, take the town pool, take just other things that we've had. Those were built by the Stillmans and some of these very wealthy families, you know, almost 100 years ago. And we have lived off their legacy for decades. And we should have had a plan to replace the generosity that these very wealthy people invested in our town. But instead, we just said, you know what? We're not going to invest in the pool. We're not going to repair this. We're not going to fix this. So we just basically squandered a 100-year head start we had on having a pool and having all of these, like Cornwall Hospital, all of these things, when we should have been planning for the future, like immediately after, like, you know, people made these investments. And so we had a lot of catching up to do. And I still think we have quite a bit of catching up to do. But I think we've made a lot of progress. So
What would you say? Give me your, like, what do you think is like your, I know you mentioned 3 things just now.
Yeah.
But if you had to say your proudest accomplishment right now, what would that be? Was that on your list, by the way?
No, it's very good.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
right? Like, I asked a good question. I usually don't. I'm just here for the
Yeah.
commentary.
yeah,
but-
so proud. Well, actually, I mean, I would say that one of the most, you know, and I thought this was actually going to be, I would say it would be standing down Kovac, basically putting the Cornwall Volunteer Ambulance out of business and moving over to New Windsor EMS to provide, you know, basic life support and advanced life support or paramedics. That was one of the first things that the mayor and I did, you know, that very first year was doing that. And, you know, you really can't put a price tag on saving someone's life. But if we look back over the past, you know, 2 to 3 years now, I mean, there's just countless stories where, you know, kid falls off bike, rips open his stomach, gets airlifted, you know, his life is saved, and because we had an ambulance that was there in 4 minutes. Or, you know, somebody's having a heart attack or someone's having a drug overdose and we're there in 4 minutes. And, you know, when we had, you know, and Kovac did a really good job for, you know, for a number of years, but it just didn't, at some point, the town and Kovac, they just didn't, like the old model didn't work, where it was like basically all volunteers with no municipal support. It just doesn't work anymore. I mean, now you mostly have paid EMS and paramedics, and you have contracts with New Windsor and Cornwall supporting this. It's like a public-private partnership. We have like the cheapest ambulance service in Orange County, but the best. Now, look, I'm not going to say we're not lucky because, you know, we do have, because we're sort of partnering with New Windsor and they are a bigger, you know, municipality, but we figured out this relationship. And
it's been seamless, right?
It's been seamless.
Right.
We have had
it was controversial when it happened, right?
Yeah. It was, and I thought there was going to be much more of like an uproar over it, but really, if you ask people about it, I mean, they don't really. I haven't heard one person say, "I wish we were doing it the old way." Like maybe they remember the fond times of the past, but I think everyone now recognizes that this is what had to happen. And look, there's never
was that a huge savings as well? Was that mixed in too?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't say it was a savings. I think it's just one of those things where we were living on borrowed time for a long time, because what was happening for many years is that we had Kovac, and they were just, you know, surviving on being reimbursed by health insurance, you know, providers, and then the town never had a contract for paramedic. We just relied on the generosity of mutual aid from New Windsor, because, again, another reason, the current town board at that time did not want to pay for it. They wanted to basically like rely on, you know, mutual aid and the goodwill of New Windsor. And it got to the point where New Windsor was like, hey, you're like freeloading here. You're not like, you know, supporting this service, and we're coming here all the time. And sometimes it just gets to the point where you have to acknowledge what reality is. It's going to cost more money. You know, we are a relatively affluent community. And, you know, we're not going to let people die on, you know, at their house.
Right.
When there's an ambulance station and around the corner someone has a heart attack and they can't staff it. And, you know, I'm not going to go into the rest of that. Yeah. But, like, that's the stuff that was happening.
We'd like to take this opportunity to thank our longtime sponsor, Leo's Pizzeria. They are an asset to our community here in Cornwall, and they're celebrating 44 years in business this year. So check out Leo's Pizzeria and Restaurant. Thursday night, they have a great special. It's a fixed price. You get an appetizer, 2 entrees, bottle of wine for a price fixed menu. So check out Leo's Pizzeria. Now back to our conversation with Town Supervisor Josh Wojehowski. So Josh, I wanted to talk about another achievement. You know, you talked about Kovac, but I think I was kind of surprised that you mentioned that one, because I really thought that you were going to talk a little bit about New York Forward, which which brought $4.5 million to Cornwall. Can you talk a little bit about that, and how did that come about, and how did that fit into, you know, your plan for the future?
Sure. So, you know what? For the longest time, there was this program out there called the DRI, the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, which was really designed for bigger towns, cities. You get $10 million. Middletown was, I think, one of the first, you know, rounds to get that.
DRI was also a punk band in the 80s.
Oh, was it? Yeah. See?
Guide me.
Yeah.
I never listened to them. Useless music knowledge. Go ahead, Josh. Sorry.
So when Governor Hochul came in, she created this because she had been hearing that, you know what, like not every town, you know, like especially our size and even smaller, are going to be able to get a DRI. You know, we don't have a big enough downtown. We don't have enough projects. Well, actually, in hindsight, like, we probably should have went for the DRI, because I think now, like, knowing what I know, and we may go back and go for that at some point, because you're allowed to have both. But when this first came out, I was like, you know what? It's always good to be, in some things, it's good to be first out of the gate, because people are going to be like, you know what, I'm going to wait and see what happens, and, you know, we don't want to do this, and you come up with a million reasons not to go for something. It was, you know, it was like my first year in office, really, you know, the mayor's too, for that matter, and I was like, you know what, we're just going to do it. We're going to go for it. I bet there's not going to be as much competition because people are just going to, want to wait and see how it's going to go. And I was right. There weren't as many applications, and there also weren't as many restrictions that the governor had kind of layered on it now, like how you're eligible for it. And so, we went for it. We had the best application. I really I felt like this was a good way to, one, get the town and village working together on something, and to two, it would really help focus the efforts on trying to, I knew I didn't want Cornwall to be like Warehouse Central. I wanted to focus on our scenic beauty, visitors that are coming here for Storm King Arts Center, West Point, etc. And I wanted our economy to kind of revolve around that. And I felt like this would be a good way to anchor that, would be to go through this process. And even if we didn't get it, all the work that went into it would give us sort of a roadmap, for the next certain number of years. And so, working with the mayor, and this was great, as was the team, the EDAC team, the chamber, all of the businesses, everyone involved. And I thought it really, gave us a chance to sort of showcase Cornwall. In fact, we're still playing that video all the time too, the one that we made. And it was great. And we got it, of course.
Maybe we can link to that video in the show notes, so people can see it.
Yeah.
If they haven't seen the video application, because it is very inspiring.
Yeah,
and,
that's your radio voice. There it is. You waited 30 minutes to get to the radio voice of. Maybe we could link to that. By the way, I'm gonna just comment on something which I have said at chamber meetings and stuff. The synergy between town supervisor and mayor, from what I see, just overall, is I guess just really awesome. I don't know what else to say, but I just think that you guys working together all the time is just really awesome.
Yeah, and the new mayor, Jim Kane, we're trying to do the same thing. He came into office, April 1st, roughly, and so we're trying to keep up doing the same thing, and I think that's going well too. And look, those relationships usually take a little bit of time to gel, but thankfully, Jim had been on the board for a long time, so he was involved in all of the discussions that Mayor Gagliano and I had working together. So it really has been pretty seamless,
Yeah. And it shows, actually. I just think that whole, it doesn't, especially in this day and age of where everybody is so polarized. Yeah. I was trying not to get too political here, even though we are with the town supervisor. But it is a fact, though, right? Because you guys do sit on different sides of the aisle, but, nobody really knows that. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I mean, look, are there going to be occasionally, and I've gotten criticized by some people, Josh, why are you talking about federal issues, or why are you talking about X, Y, and Z. And what I've tried to do is, for the most part, if it's a federal issue that I know is going to directly impact Cornwall, if they're going to cancel a contract that Cornwall's going to get, or if they're going to lay people off of West Point, or do things that I know are going to hurt Cornwall directly, I will try. I will talk about that, because I think that, there are some things that have hurt Cornwall, will hurt Cornwall, and those things I'm going to push back against, but I'm not trying to be out there every day. I mean, I have a really big job. My job really is a chief executive officer, chief operations, chief financial officer. There's a lot of work. I mean, I literally have a 200, numbered list of stuff to get done, that if I focused on all this, external stuff, I would never be able to be checking stuff off my list.
It's not a job interview, right? It's just a podcast.
No, but I'm just saying, I want people to know,
and we're not even close to election time, right? In fairness, right?
Well, in the fall, yeah.
Oh, it is. It's November.
Yeah.
Okay. I
but my goal is to actually check stuff off the list, not just talk about stuff on the federal level. I think that's important, because I think, I really do try to get as much stuff done. If I was focused on external stuff, I would not be getting as much stuff done as I think we've been able to do.
If we can go back to the New York Forward, because I think a lot of people do want to understand, okay, so we got awarded this thing. What next? And do you have any updates on some of those projects?
Yeah.
Because we had built $10 million worth of projects.
$10 million. Do you want to do your pinky here? You want to... $10 million. Sorry. Not really,
yeah, so what I would say is that
$10 million.
It did take, to my, I guess, surprise is the wrong word, because the state always finds a way, so does the federal government, to slow things down with their processes. They decided to basically rewrite all of the boilerplate language of all of their contracts for certain grant programs, and that added on like over 6 months to the process. We should have had contracts last fall, and we got them in April. So we're now reviewing the contracts. We expect to sign them by June 15th, which will allow us to start retaining firms to start working on, like Riverlight Park, the connector trail, the marketing and wayfinding. The small project fund, that's moved a little bit quicker. That was a different agency. That was HCR, which is Homes and Community Renewal. That's the state's housing one.
That was not a punk band in the 80s, by the way.
HCR
was not.
Yeah. And look, in government, we like to use lots of acronyms so people
right.
can't follow what we're doing.
Yeah.
So basically, we are much further along in the small project fund, and we are right now. We need a program administrator to administer the funds, and we need someone that's going to that's going to do environmental review of the projects.
Well, hold on a second, Josh,
Yes.
if I may.
Yes.
Scott's on sabbatical. Scott, would you like to present your resume for somebody that's possibly?
So we are hopeful that we're going to have hired a program administrator and a firm to review the environmentals over the summer, and then we're also working on an application that we're going to push out to property owners and business owners in the project area, and they will submit projects. A lot of people already know what they're going to submit. I mean, they're constantly talking to me. I think we also got letters when we initially.
Right.
So we know what that's going to be. That's going to be, I think, the one that's going to move the quickest. But look, just because on some of the other projects, like let's take the Riverlight Park one, right? That was a $2.5 million project, but only $800,000 of that was coming from New York Forward money. We have other projects that we are either about to complete or about to start that were funded by other grants that we got, and since that time. So the new playground that's going in, that's going to be done by the fall. The Ice House Pavilion project in Riverlight Park, we hope to have that done by the fall. It's currently it's currently being designed.
What is that?
So that like structure where the manger is and the right. We want to put a concrete floor in, new lighting, new electric, open it up into like a space that people can like rent out.
Okay.
So that's going to be like a nice little addition. Sandring Homestead, we've invested about $150,000. That historical structure across the street. That was one of the projects. We're about to open that for July 4th. So that was one of the projects we did. The American Legion building. We're going to be opening bids on that next week. So that project's going to be finished this fall. So there's been other things that we've been doing that we're going to be able to count towards the project. The connector trail, we went after the lowest hanging fruit. So if you think about the snowflakes, if you think about the hometown heroes, the flower baskets, some of the sidewalks and crosswalks that we've been doing, we're going to be adding more parking over on the corner of Willow and Main Street. We're going to be going in there, ripping out those sidewalks that are on the side of that building, moving some things, and hopefully adding like 3 to 5 parking spots there, and doing some other things. So we have been doing stuff. It's just not been with the New York Forward money, because as you remember, they said you should go out and get other sources of money. Well, we did. And so we've been using other sources of money to do parts of those projects that's not New York Forward money.
Yeah, I don't think people really realize that. Can you talk a little bit about how much money have you gotten beyond the $4.5 million from the New York Forward?
Sure. So let me see. If we look at it, Senator Skoufis has got us almost $1 million. It's just various pots of money that we're using on Riverlight Park projects.
What about the money from there was also a recent grant for the hotel, $800,000.
Oh, sure. So actually the hotel, they were one of the projects that got submitted that was not awarded by New York Forward. But overall, the hotel's gotten about $2 million. They got 1.2 from Empire State Development Capital Fund, and recently they got a Restore New York grant, which is used to basically rehab and clean up, formerly blighted properties and get like them back on the tax rolls. And so if you count that project, that's another $2 million. So look, I mean, I I guess if you include the New York Forward, the hotel money, the Senator Skoufis money, I mean, we're getting close to like $8 million.